Both of the aquariums have been running now for about 2 weeks. So let's take a look at how they're doing, as well as some details about the lighting and the carbon dioxide. The light for the downstairs aquarium is being provided by a Current Satellite Pro LED light. I like this light a lot. It's got plenty of power for a 22-inch deep aquarium, like a 75-gallon aquarium. It also is completely controllable, allowing me to set start and stop times, allowing me to also ramp the light, where I start at about dawn, where the light gradually comes on in the morning, and at dusk, where the light gradually goes down in the evening. The light also allows me to control the color spectrum. I have this LED light set up so that the spectrum is peaking in red and blue light, which is important for plant photosynthesis. I also have it with bright white light, which is going to allow the tank to really pop. This light is powerful enough that it gets plenty of light down to the bottom of the tank. This is one of my pressurized carbon dioxide systems. It consists of a CO2 tank. This one is an 8-pound tank. I have a couple that are 5 pounds and a couple that are 10 pounds. I get them used. I buy them from other aquarists who are getting out of it. The most important part of a CO2 system is the controller. You want a controller that has 2 pressure valves. This will prevent, in the long run, what's called CO2 dump. If you have a system that only has 1 controller, when the CO2 canister gets down to where it has maybe 10% of its gas left in it, all of a sudden, all that gas will be released into your tank at once, and it can kill your tank. But a double control valve system prevents that from happening. One of these valves is controlled by the valve on top of the canister. The other one is controlled by this valve here. So when you're operating this, you're going to keep both of these open. This piece right here is your bubble counter, and it's actually connected to what's called the needle valve. The needle valve is right here, and where you can control the flow of carbon dioxide by closing or opening the needle valve. This is a bubble counter. You can see what your flow rate of carbon dioxide is into the tank. Depending upon your size of tank and how much carbon dioxide you need, this will go between 1 to 5 or maybe a little more bubbles per second. You can actually use a CO2 indicator in your aquarium. I don't have one, to let you know when the pH in your tank changes. As carbon dioxide enters the aquarium, your pH is going to go down because that carbon dioxide is converted into carbonic acid. The carbon dioxide is going to travel up of this flexible carbon dioxide tube. I do use a check valve to prevent any kind of backwashing from the aquarium into my bubble counter. It's going to come up into the tank where you're going to have a diffuser. I like these centered glass diffusers. Some people don't. Some people like to have inline diffusers. I kind of like to be able to see the bubbles rising up in the tank. These centered glass diffusers, they create what's called microbubbles. As the microbubbles rise, the carbon dioxide dissolves into the water. Another really important part to have on your controller is a solenoid valve. This solenoid valve is connected to a timer, and that timer is set to start 15 to 20 minutes before my lights in my aquarium come on, and to go off about an hour before the lights go off. This way I get a little bit of carbon dioxide in the water before the lights turn on, and I can turn them off about an hour before the lights go off, so that all those plants can take the excess carbon dioxide out of the water. This aquarium has experienced some problems in the first couple weeks that it started growing. I expected all the plants to just explode from when they were first planted in. But the Hydrophilia araguea in the back of the tank and the Alternanthera renici in the middle of the tank, they did not start growing very quickly at all. As a matter of fact, some of the Alternanthera ended up melting away, but it's starting to come back. The hydrocotyl grew very, very quickly. The amount of light that I was providing the tank started to grow some green algae. It started on the wood, then it spread to the plants on the bottom of the tank. To solve this problem, I have physically removed as much of the green algae as I can. I've added some organisms to eat the algae, notably some shrimp and also some autocinclus. And And I've also reduced the amount of light going in the tank from 9 hours down to 5 hours. At the same time, I've increased the amount of carbon dioxide going in the tank from about 4 bubbles per second up to about 6 bubbles per second. This is increasing the amount of carbon dioxide, making it easier for the plants to grow. Since I have made those changes, I have noticed an immediate response by the Alternanthera and the Hygrophila and the Hydrocotyl. They're all starting to grow pretty well. So I'm hoping that over the next couple weeks, we're going to see the green algae slowly disappear as the plants begin to grow. I am still not using any kind of fertilizers in this aquarium. My tap water is pretty highly mineralized, and pretty soon I'm going to add some more fish to this tank. And as I start feeding them, the amount of nitrogen in the water should go up. But if I continue to have problems getting good growth rates out of the plants, or if I see any signs of problems in the colors of the leaves or in how they're growing, I will fertilize. And if I start fertilizing, I'll share that with you in a video. The upstairs aquarium is being lit by 2 Kessel Amazon Sun pendant lights that are being suspended over the tank by these goosenecks. They provide a very high power light to the bottom of the tank, and they provide a wide spectrum light as well. These Kessel lights were specifically designed for planted aquariums, and they're different from the saltwater specific LED lights that the company is very well known for. The only problem I have with these lights is that they're a little bit noisy because they have a small fan inside that housing. And up here in the living room, we get a little bit of a hum. The lights are set onto a timer and they provide 9 hours of light a day. So far I haven't had any real problems with algae or anything else going on in the tank, and the plants have been growing really well. Cryptocorynes take a little bit longer to establish than the hairgrass does. So you'll notice as I show you the plants that the cryptocorynes are just kind of getting started, but the hairgrass has really taken off. One of the problems that I did have in this aquarium is I was getting a lot of surface scum, and that was actually reducing the amount of oxygen that was getting into the tank. As a result, I had a small problem with cyanobacteria, blue-green algae, growing on the crypts down the bottom of the aquarium. The way I solved that problem was by installing a lily pipe, which is a glass apparatus that's meant for planted tanks that allows me to turn over the surface of the water as the water leaves the filter. It seems to be working pretty well. The other thing that I did was to add glass canopies to the top of the tank. That's going to reduce the amount of dust that hits the surface of the water. It's also going to prevent some of the evaporation that was going on up here. The aquarium up here in the living room is also receiving carbon dioxide being provided by a pressurized canister that's located underneath the cabinet stand. It's kind of dark down there and hard to give you a look, but it's exactly like the setup that I showed you from the basement. I'm giving this tank about 5 bubbles per second of carbon dioxide. So far that seems to be enough to allow the hairgrass to grow and the crypts to get started without there being an algae problem. This tank up here does not have all the plants that are going to go into it. Eventually I'm going to plant some taller plants, probably giant hygro, on the back side of the rocks on the right hand side of the tank. The reason I didn't start the plants in here is because those plants are going to shade the plants that are on the bottom of the aquarium. So I would like the bottom plants, the bottom cover, the hairgrass and the crypts to get a really good start before I put in the larger plants that are going to block some of their light. Both of the planted aquariums are off to a good start. There's been a few hiccups downstairs, but the changes that I've made to lighting and carbon dioxide are going to make a difference pretty quickly. Everything upstairs is going just as planned. The next video in this series is not going to be published for a couple of months. Between now and then, I want to see how well the plants grow, and I want to add fish to the tank. So the next time I bring this tanks back to you, they're going to look significantly different. Thank you for watching Ted's Fish Room.